Hi, this is Christian Buckley with CollabTalk.
Hi, this is Michal Sobotkiewicz from KanBo.
And one of the things, Michael, I know we've talked about a number of different times is the evolution of knowledge management. And so that's a big category. It's a big topic. And it's almost like I put it in the same category as big data, where, you know, it's this term, this phrase that we've used, knowledge management. What does it really mean? And the reality is just I think we need to think of it less of this system where we go and store documents, and it being more of the everything that we're doing and we're collaborating on. Our email as our file shares are all part of that larger knowledge management system. And so we need to think about it. And even I would argue, and I often do argue, that our social collaborations, our conversations, if you and I are having a discussion in Skype for Business or even in like Facebook Messenger, where we then go into talking about work-related topics, I try to not do that on Facebook Messenger, but that it could be essential that we need to capture that dialogue. And I found myself grabbing a threaded discussion in this non-compliant chat tool and then moving it over and saving it as a document, as an artifact within the system. I mean, how do you look at the changes that have been happening, the evolution of knowledge management?
So I think when you look back, and this is really what scares me. It's like Steve Jobs said it once, and I love this phrase, like, we are doing a lot of business folklore. We don't question things. I mean, you know, for me, even using documents to store information is such a crap coming from the past, where we had this physical paper and we had to, you know, write things from the beginning to the end, and if something, you know, was not all right, then we had to make a reference, we couldn't delete it, and so on and so on. So alone today, it doesn't fit our world at all. I mean, and then think about it, when you wrote a document, so let's say document as a capturing knowledge mechanism in the past day, like you needed a half a day or a day to write a document. And then you had this folder where you put the document, and the folder you put in the cupboard or in some other archive that was paper-based. It was okay. It was aligned with the speed you created knowledge. Now what you do, you create the first computer, the first file system. What do you use? Of course, you use the same system you use for paper, right? Folders, subfolders, you know, big cupboards, and so on and so on and so on. But this is completely not compatible with what the computer and the digital world can give you. Like, think of a mind map. Imagine you would store the information you stored in a document in a mind map. How fast it can be consumed, and I can choose the direction how I want to consume it. I can consume it from there to there or from there to there. I can jump and I can make my own conclusion, and then I can faster react.
Well, that's the power of, you know, and I think modern knowledge management, where you now have like the power of the graph and the social graph around it. So I mean, actually, company that I started in the late 90s, where we went and built a rudimentary social graph. It was actually, we were leveraging, but this goes back, if you remember, rational software. We used ClearCase, so the software configuration management system, as kind of the engine to go and create these massive these graphs around it, where essentially every artifact that you created. So it could be that we have a project that's coming up. Well, the project could have a wrapper around it. That's an artifact, the definition of that. But down to like the individual requirements. Well, that, you know, the way that the graph works is that there's nothing that's just out there floating unattached to anything else. At the very least, an idea is attached to me if it comes from me. So it's in my profile. So if someone went and searched on a certain keyword and my name, it would pull up that idea in the system through the graph.
So you name it, exactly.
You created these massive webs of connected artifacts and systems, and some of them could be a conversation that was captured within Skype, as we discussed. It could be a couple Word documents. It could be an email over here. I mean, all those things. You know, that's the future, where you have all of these different artifacts, so that when I go and do a search, it's not just to a library of content that's been indexed in this file share, but it's much more intelligence to go and look at all of the conversations, all of the people connections, and through those connections, other content and activities and tools and things are out there, so that I get a comprehensive view of that subject matter. So that's when I think of knowledge management, is all of that. It's video, it's audio, it is content, it is paper-based, but it's also conversation and all those experiences that we have and how they're tied together.
Yes, but I agree. And I mean, we have to live with this because we have a lot of libraries, a lot of books, and a lot of stuff that use the old concept of storing information as a sequential flow, right? But the new information we should create in a more smaller pieces, or let's say, again, I repeat myself, I love the context.
Yeah.
And of course, when I look at Delph, it's a great job it's doing. Because it's realizing some patterns and it's trying to put, some contexts together of people and maybe documents and so on. But it's still, the chunks are too big. Imagine you could have contexts that are created by human beings, and the information in those contexts are structured as nodes with keywords, and the conversation that we do inside of this context actually uses keywords that tag the context, the other information that is in the context. So the human creates the context, and then the machine supports on tagging and on searching and connecting, but it gets a much better quality to do that in comparing to, I have a document that is attached to an email that was sent to a colleague. It's like, you are dealing with a hammer, and when you are talking about, KanBo and cards, you are talking about microscope. This is other dimensions. And I think if we create the possibility for people to bring information into context. So I have one document that is in this context, and the same document is in another project in another context. So this document should be tagged automatically by those two contexts. So whenever I am looking for this context, I should receive this document. But I didn't go to this document. I didn't tag it. It was tagged because I acted on it in some way. And this is the magic that should happen underneath. So that's why we would like to give this information to Delph and have it processed and then see the magic. So that's how I see how knowledge is created. Knowledge is created every day. And it evaporates. Nobody captures it really. I have a question regarding this. Someone answers this. It's a peer-to-peer conversation. Bam, it's gone. But it belongs. Actually, this information should stay within the company. If someone leaves, this information should be there. So this is how I think about.
And that's another, I think, a failure too. I think that's a great point, because it's a failure of a knowledge management process where I have to, in that case, where we have an interaction where we're working on a task, or the meeting that we created, this recording. I mean, there's a meeting that was created that has tags associated with it, has a title around it. And the system is intelligent enough to know that, hey, it's related, looking at the tasks that we're working on, that based on that title and the fact that the two of us are involved in this, that it's capturing that recording and then archives it in a way intelligently based on what it already understands. So as much as you can automate how that knowledge is captured, and I think that's something that the card-based way of collaboration and tight context, it has that. I don't have to then go and create tags that to make it so that it is, it's searchable. I can go and add a label. I can add additional keywords, right? For additional on that. It's like, but it's not a requirement for me to go and do that. The system understands based on all of the attributes that are associated, what we're discussing, what we're sharing, who we are, our profiles, the projects that we have ongoing. It automatically makes those associations. I mean, that's where I was going with the graph ties to that. There needs to be that context, there needs to be the relevance, but there also needs to be a certain amount of the automated capture of that context to a certain degree, so that it intelligently puts these things together. So I don't need to be specifically saving it down and moving it into this library for that to be searchable, findable within this.
The best proof of that, what we are saying now, is that's why wikis are dead, because nobody puts information in there because it costs time, and if you put the information in there, it's already outdated. So there's no way like that. So I tell you one thing that we are now investigating is, imagine I would call you from a card in Skype. This conversation would be just audio conversation would be recorded, put into stream, transcripted, and this information would become part of our card. So whenever I look for something, I will suddenly find a card that contains documents, tasks, where are people involved, and suddenly there's no world, the word that I search for is not contained by the card, but it was in the audio conversation we had. And this is how I think of Office 365 and of the possibilities. And so I can put things together to build better contexts that fit our world, where we will just call each other, or even look how the young people today, in WhatsApp, they don't write anymore. They dictate and send the messages because it's faster. Imagine this is the future. They will come in our companies now, and they will want to exchange audio. So you need to transcript that and put it as another piece in the context. So this is how I understand knowledge. Knowledge will be produced every day, and we cannot force people to tag this knowledge or put them in structure. They will put it in the natural structure how they work. And the systems are intelligent and powerful enough today to get there and use whatever people put in there to create better contexts, to be actually the foundation of search. This is my idea, my imagination of knowledge management.
And I think that you're spot on. And I think that certainly the technologies that we have that to capture these different activities, and as you said, to like do the transcription service. I mean, we are so close to even one step further than the transcription services, but having that like Star Trek communicator, the translator, the universal translator, and being able to even, you and I could you could be speaking in German and I could be speaking in English, and that it automatically, like as you're speaking, it is close to real time translating and then speaking back to me in a slight robotic voice, but the English translation for that. And to think about, the capturing of information, that it actually, as you go to search for something, one, I think the intentional search is one aspect of it, but that it's actually then going and finding, oh yeah, at 15 minutes, 33 seconds, that point is brought up in this video here. And it points you right to what's relevant to what you're looking for. The other side of knowledge management is, tell me what I've not searched for, because search has its limits of, and I use this example, that one, that it was captured, and two, that it was tagged, that it was, captured has to be there. If the content doesn't exist, you can't find it, but that it's then tagged properly, that you then have the right permissions to it. And then that system is actually up, that you have access to it physically, or digitally, those kind of factors. But with all of those things in place, and as more and more things move to the cloud, what's powerful about that is that, and the machine learning actually goes in and then looks and says, here's the terms that you're searching for, but this other thing, let me show you these things that you're not asking for. It's not tagged that you would ever find in that search result, but based on the conversation and the fact that Michael was looking for something similar around this, but went this other direction, here's this other thing. It's the power to show you what you don't know yet to look for.
Exactly.
You didn't know that you need. I mean, that's the next step in the evolution of knowledge management. Give me what I don't know yet that I need, but I need.
Yeah, the digital assistant.
I don't know what to call that. Yeah, that digital assistant, right. And we're getting there. And the tools that we have to retrieve that are getting more and more intelligent with bots and other, deeper integration of applications. So you can go and access the data, the knowledge, wherever it's being kept. And it's really, democratizing knowledge across an organization.
Yes, definitely. But I see that the difference between the assistants will be, between the different assistant products that will be there, will be in Did you do your basics, your foundations right? Is the quality that is being used to build by the artificial intelligence, was it good enough, or is it so good that the output is really very close to the truth, what we're looking for? And
Right.
this is where I see where we can make a difference with card as a context holder, created by human being as part of a team or your company. And all this stuff automatically was built by the human.
Right.
And then the machine comes and does the impossible, because it can process so many cards and do so many connections and play our chess game 5,000 times within a second until the end, and find what's the best one.
Well,
this is what we cannot do.
Right. And the more focused the knowledge captured, more focused the activity. And that's why, card-based, you're right. It's very focused. It's intentional. That means that the more relevant it will become as part of the result. When you're getting that,
the multiplier will be the machine.
Right.
Multiplier will be the machine. And if your figures are right in the beginning, then the result will be very accurate. That's why I think we are on the right track. And we are experimenting with what Microsoft gives us from the machine learning, from the Azure and so on. So we have a lot of Lego stones to play with, and we love that.
There's a lot of learning to do. I think it's an exciting space. It's like knowledge management is exciting again. There's just a lot that's happening in this space. And Michael, I'm excited to see how your company is leveraging that. Really appreciate this time talking about the future of knowledge management.
Always a pleasure, Chris. Thank you.